Kia has fully revealed their PV5, which is their entry vehicle for their passenger and cargo vans. We're going to talk about the specs, the options, and why it may not be coming to the United States. Let's just jump right into it. Now, the PV5 is Kia's first production model built on their PBV platform beyond vehicle business strategy, where they'll be, I guess, introducing many more versions, commercial and passenger vehicles on this eGMP platform. And so we could be seeing more skateboard modular chassis built for other body configurations. The PV5 is Kia's entry into this market of PV commercial passenger vehicles. They showed off a teaser of the PV9 at Kia's EV Day. We've also already seen the PV7, which is just a larger version of the PV5, and they've also shown a PV1 as well. And the PV5 is the first vehicle of Kia to do it. Now, this vehicle will initially be launching in Korea and European markets, and let's kind of talk about it. This is a bit of a history lesson. Back in the 60s, American poultry was cheaper, and so they would export American poultry, import it into the European markets. This was hurting European poultry farmers, and so as a retaliation, Europe introduced a chicken tax. And this made it harder for American farmers to export American poultry and import it into European markets, so they had less sales. As a retaliation, Lyndon B. Johnson introduced a tariff on light duty trucks that were imported from other countries into the United States. And this is why we don't see a lot of commercial vehicles like trucks be imported into the United States from other countries. Same reason why we don't get like trucks like the Hilux, if you know that whole fiasco. But the point is, the whole reason we may not be getting the PV5 is due to this chicken tax. It's a 25% tariff on light duty trucks imported into the United States. And if it isn't cost effective for Kia to introduce the PV5 with a 25% tariff, a 25% increase in cost for buyers, it's unlikely that we're going to see it here in the United States. But Kia and GM have been in talks to, I guess, bring that platform, that chassis from the PV vehicles, bring it to the United States, and I guess GM would introduce their own vehicle on the same platform. And so we could still be getting Kia's PV vehicles, but in a General Motors form. Anyway, let's jump into what the PV5 is actually about. So we have the passenger version, we have the cargo version, as well as a chassis cab. So the passenger version will have different seating configurations. They've shown a 1, 2, 3 seating option, a 2, 3, 0, a 2, 3, 3. It's a passenger van, so you'll have different seating options. Now, this passenger option was actually worked with Uber. So Uber and Kia came together to look at what the best configuration would be for a lot of ride hailing services. And so I guess Kia wants to make sure that when this van goes on sale, for a lot of people, imagine taxis, could use this van for ride hailing, where driver, passenger, a second row with 3 seats, and then behind that is just cargo space to put luggage and anything that you want to carry around. The cargo commercial version will just be a cargo version. It'll have, right, your regular cab, so 2 seats in front, driver, passenger, and then it'll have, right, the back where you can put cargo. There will also be a long and high roof model, which is going to be coming in the future, but right now it's just going to be the standard short body version that you're going to be seeing on the passenger version as well. I should also mention the passenger version will also have a crew version, so 2 seats in the front, second row, third in the middle, but the back will have a bit more room for cargo. Similar to the 2-3-0 seating that Kia has been showing, but more for cargo and commercial applications. Hopefully that makes sense. There's also going to be a chassis cab that Kia is going to be introducing on the PV5 platform. So if you want to create a bed or some sort of other, configuration that goes on the chassis, you're able to do that. And yeah, so 3 different versions: passenger, cargo, and a chassis. Kia is also looking at introducing some other conversions, so a wheelchair accessible vehicle called the Wave, which will introduce a ramp for people in wheelchairs. They're also looking at a camper version and even a freezer version for people who want to be transporting frozen or cooled goods. Now, onto the powertrain and performance. This will have a motor output of 161 horsepower or 120 kilowatts. There will be three different battery options, but only two of the battery options will be for the passenger version. That being the 71.2 kilowatt hour nickel manganese cobalt battery, the 51.5 kilowatt hour smaller battery. But just for the cargo version, they'll be introducing a 43.3 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate LFP battery just for the cargo commercial van. And so three battery options for the cargo commercial version, two battery options for the passenger versions. And for people who are going to be carrying cargo likely in town, you don't need a bigger battery. You can save on cost, save on weight, get better efficiency. You will just get the smaller battery pack. And of course, LFP is known to have a better lifespan than nickel, manganese, cobalt. And so that LFP battery may be lasting you a bit of a longer time. Estimated range is 400 kilometers or about 248 miles with the 71.2 kilowatt hour battery that we see on the passenger version. Now that is on the WLTP version, so EPA will likely be a lot lower, closer to 200, maybe 220 miles of range. Now, top speed, 87 miles an hour, so highway speed is going to be great. Acceleration in 10 seconds at 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, which isn't exactly 0 to 60, that's like 0 to like 62. But this is not a Lucid Air Sapphire, this is not a Rimac Nevera. You're not looking to go right 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. It's a cargo passenger van, so 10 seconds, 0 to 60. This will be able to DC fast charge. Kia says a 10 to 80% in just 30 minutes. As I've mentioned, this is built on the eGMP S platform. And so we know how good the eGMP cars from Kia, Hyundai, Genesis charge curves are. So that is pretty good charging. Of course, it'll have AC charging. It'll have vehicle to load like we see on the other GMP vehicles. But this vehicle will have vehicle to grid capabilities. So if you want to power your house, you're able to do that with this vehicle. On more of the technical side of things, and we'll get into some of the options as well, this will have over-the-air updates. It has a 7-inch digital instrument cluster, the binnacle. It'll have a 13-inch infotainment system. Now, the software is based on Android Automotive Operating System, which is the same software that we see in the Polestar vehicles, but with, of course, its own reskinned version with its own hardware adaptations. And so this is the same software that we're going to be seeing with Kia's own version on the PV5. It'll also come with a fleet management system, which is something that we see with Rivian. Rivian's EDVs have their own fleet management system. And that's been something that Rivian touts and says that, it's a good part of the EDV. So here, Kia has their own fleet management system that can provide real-time tracking as well as maintenance and diagnostics. So that'll help manage fleets as well. And of course, it'll have the regular safety features. So lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, and it'll even have phone as a key. Now for the interior finishes, there's going to be 5 different options. There's deep navy, dove gray, espresso brown, terracotta brown, and iceberg green. Then for the exterior paint colors, there's soft mint gloss, lake house gray gloss, frost blue gloss, and then they'll have a Korean market exclusive color, which is steel gray matte. And that steel gray matte looks absolutely beautiful. Kind of sucks that only the Korean market is getting it. But here in the United States, North America as a whole, we might not be getting it anyway. So, go figure. Now, as I've already mentioned, this will just be in sale in Europe and Korea markets in the second half of 2025. And it's expected with a starting price. Kia has indicated it could be anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 euros, which would give us a starting price between like $30,000 and $40,000 in the US. Now, moving on to the Kia website, it kind of gives you an idea of what the Kia set of vehicles, the lineup that they have. So we have the cargo version, which is self-explanatory. This is the cargo version of the van. As I mentioned, two passengers in the front, driver, passenger, and of course the rest of the vehicle will be used for cargo. As I said, there'll be an option for sliding or manual electric doors, but for the rear, for the cargo version, they will have a split gate door here, as we see, for example. Well, on the passenger version, it will be a tailgate. Same thing for the crew here. As I've mentioned, the crew is a passenger version of the PV5. You'll see here, driver, passenger, and then a second row, which is closer to the first row, which gives a bit more room in the rear. This is also similar to again, it's based off the PV5 passenger. So the passenger will have more seating configurations, but this option that Kia shows for the seating, you'll see here, right? We have passenger, driver, And then we have this second row here with 3 in the back, and then more room in the rear as well. But again, there'll be other seating options. Then you also have the Wave, which I've mentioned for the wheelchair users. And so you'll see here driver, passenger, and then there's also a row in the back for people who may want to sit down. But then, of course, you have this main space here in the middle for people who may be using a wheelchair. You can even fold the seats up, and then the wheelchair will go right here in the middle. Besides the seating configurations, you can tell which van is which just from the outside. Of course, the cargo has no windows. Then you go over here to the crew, which has a window here, but no window in the back. And then you have the passenger, which has windows all around. I'm hoping that this vehicle comes to the United States. I think more competition in the van space, particularly the passenger van space, is great. We see the commercial cargo van space heating up quite well. We have the E-Transit, we have Stellantis with their electric van, we have the Mercedes E-Sprinter, we have the Rivian EDV, we have the Chevy Bright Drop Zevo vans. Like, we have a ton of other commercial options, but something of this size, something small that smaller businesses could use, I think is just perfect and exactly what people need, especially if the price is right. We have the ID Buzz from Volkswagen, which is starting at $70,000 and already getting a ton of huge discounts. And that's because it is really not a competitive vehicle. It has pretty low range for a passenger vehicle. And I think if the PV5 were to be brought here, along maybe with other PV vehicles like the PV7 or PV9, not only would it heat up the market a bit more, but it just gives people more options. But let me know what you guys think. I know I think a lot of people would just be excited if this were to be in the United States, but due to our current tariffs, which has nothing to do with current political matters, these tariffs have been existing for decades at this point. That's kind of preventing why the PV5 would be here in the first place. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. My name is Isaiah. This is the Out of Spec podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one.